Ladies and gentlemen, my name is TotalBiscuit and I'm here to ask and answer one simple question. WTF is Serious Sam 3? This is actually, like, the third take, the third encounter in this particular set of videos. I did one when it first came out, and the video was bad. As in, it was really bad, my commentary sucked, so I just deleted the entire thing, which I do more often than you might think. And then I tried a second one, but I had frame rate problems, and now I'm going to attempt it once more, and I think that I've ironed out most of those issues. This is most likely going to be a fairly lengthy video, since I want to try and cover single player as well as some of the multiplayer component of this game. This is, in fact, a first-person shooter by Croteam and Devolver Digital. Serious Sam has been a franchise that's been around for quite some time. The odd thing about Serious Sam is that when it was first brought out, it was like, hey, it's kind of like Doom Quake, but funnier, you know, with a weird sense of humor to it. A little bit Duke Nukem-esque, admittedly without most of the filthy humor, with just more blood and guts and violence, and was perhaps known best for its exceptional co-op mode, which allowed a ridiculous number of people to play together. This game is no exception in that respect. Although now, the funny thing about this game is that now that it's out in 2011, which is when it came out, it's very much a throwback. And yet, it's kind of the same as the first game. It's like, this is weird. Over the past 10 years, FPS has changed so much that this can now be considered a throwback title. Anyway, let's have a look at it, shall we? So, as I said, I've been struggling a little bit with the frame rate and issues like that, and I believe it's actually got something to do with something which I would consider to be a very good thing, which is the options menu. So, I have lamented many a PC port that has not had a good options menu. So, this game goes a little bit overboard, potentially. So there's graphics options. FOV is in the menu, always good. It actually wasn't on launch, but they added that in rapidly after patch, so good on them for listening to that. This is where things start to get a bit crazy. Let's go to performance, shall we? And you might think, well, that's absolutely basic. Nope. Nope. And, of course, nope. There are a lot of options here, to the point, actually, where if one of these options is causing my frame rate problems, I can't for the life of me find out which one it is. I suppose that's the real problem, isn't it, with having loads of really great options. You run into issues in terms of trying to find the one that is causing you problems, and I have auto-detect on and things like that, but as I say, I do get some weird frame drops every now and again. I'm pretty convinced it's something to do with my setup. There's something wrong with it in one way or another. I don't know what's causing it, but I haven't heard these issues from other people. There is also, very, very important, you've got to have this. You simply have to have this. The blood options, and I'll show you what they do a little bit later on. It wouldn't be a Serious Sam game without that. So, a ton of options, always good, and needless to say, you can rebind your keys. Kind of important. And these options, they start default off, as quite frankly, they should. Alright, let's check out the single player. So, I've gone through the first couple of missions of this game, mostly in my abortive attempts to actually record it. So, I'm a couple of levels in. What I will say, because I don't want to skip this level into the spider's nest is pretty garbage. As in, it's a really dark corridor shooter area that is not very well designed at all. Most of the outdoor areas are pretty cool. There are bits of Into the Spider's Nest, which is okay. For instance, the bit that you sort of see in the little window right there is the more open area. That's kind of cool, but a lot of it is a very ugly-looking underground set of corridors, and I don't like it whatsoever. Broken Wings, on the other hand, as well as Summer in Cairo, these are more Serious Sam style of thing, where they are larger open areas in this case, of course, of a kind of Egyptian desert theme. Alright, so let's load up and let's play a little bit of Serious Sam 3, shall we? And I shall demonstrate what it's all about, as well as trying to poke holes at various things and probably make some comment on the state of the FPS industry at the moment, assuming you can call it an industry. I think you probably can, honestly, considering how many FPS games are produced these days. Alright, let's go. Alright, so, welcome to Serious Sam 3, and we can have a look around, and the area I'm in right now, nothing's going to attack me, I believe, until I head into the little castle area here, so I can show you a few things. First thing I'd like to point out, some of these guns are a little bit big. Like, this pistol, Desert Eagle, obviously, as you can see. Admittedly, this Desert Eagle actually has 10 rounds in it. I'm not sure. Can you do that? I suppose maybe you could, but wasn't there the 357 version is a 9-round clip, and you could get one in the chamber, I think? I might be wrong there. I don't know all that much about guns. I'm probably just making an assumption. It is pretty large. I'm not really sure why it's as large as it is, I mean, hell, it's actually a bit bigger than the shotgun, as you can probably see there. I think it actually covers up almost more real estate than the shotgun does, which is kind of weird. Again, it's a minor complaint, though, and a lot of the weapons in previous Serious Sam games have also been rather large. Melee weapon is a Sledgehammer. You can also do various different kinds of swings with it. If you press the reload button, spin! And yes, reloading does happen on some of the weapons in this game. Alright. Now, what there also is are a lot of pickups. This is a very traditional health system, so you can see your health to the bottom there, as you can probably notice. And you've also got armor as well. You can find armor shards and little health pickups and things like that all over the place. And it's a very good idea to look around and see what you can actually find, because some of this stuff is kind of neat. In fact, you need to, really. If you take too much damage, then don't expect health packs to simply pop out of nowhere. You do need to look around and actually find the bloody things. And there are a lot of secrets. There are even mini-secrets, which are not all that well hidden, and then proper secrets that are very well hidden, which involve jumping over various things and checking out various areas. Have a look around here. I believe I'm actually backtracking a little bit through the level here. I'm pretty sure I've collected most of the stuff here and killed it. What I need to do is head towards that kind of castle area, so I'm going to do exactly that. As you can tell, you can sprint. You don't seem to get tired, because of course you are very serious about this whole affair. And aim down sights. It exists with the pistol and slows you down, which is why I really wouldn't recommend it. In fact, I was playing a little bit of the multiplayer with the assault rifle. Don't aim down sights with it, because the multiplayer is very much old school deathmatch style, in that you're jumping, you're running, you gotta keep mobile. You do this, you're gonna get shot very fast. There is no aim down sights for that, and needless to say, it's Sledgehammer's no aim down sight for that either. The music has changed, which means we're about to be under attack. There's actually a monster up there. I'm gonna ignore him because I don't have any real way to kill him up there from this distance. So let's just sprint past him. See if we can get a couple of pickups on the way. Doesn't appear to be any way in there as much as I would like. Ooh, hello. Always good to pay attention. Looks like I've got an awful lot of gear now. Let's rock and or roll, whichever comes first. Slight bit of damage, not really a problem. Here, my pretties. Well, that's honestly quite a little bit cerebral for a Serious Sam game. Funny enough, I've never actually noticed that before, being able to look at different languages on the wall and have it actually be translated. That's a fairly interesting little feature. Alright, that's not what we really care about, though, is it? This is what we care about. Death, dismemberment, and destruction. Now, this game has a melee system, whereby you can rip bits of enemies off, and then you can throw them. There's no real purpose to doing so whatsoever, and in fact, it's most likely going to get you killed if you're not really paying attention. It's definitely what I'm doing right now. Alright. Get out the Desert Eagle, a little bit better for long-range combat than the shotgun. Also good to conserve indeed, not concern your shotgun ammo, as it has a tendency of disappearing rather rapidly. There we go, got a reasonable amount of distance here. I've taken a stupid amount of damage already, and that is quite a few enemies we've got coming at us. Well, it's Serious Sam, you expect a lot of enemies, and my god, do you get them. And this is only single-player mode. Consider 16-player co-op and how much they ramp things up there. Yep, I did just say 16-player co-op. There's also a split-screen co-op mode, which is nigh on unheard of. I mean, hell, it doesn't even happen that much in console games anymore, but even ends up happening on a PC game? I mean, it's not common. Not at all. There's a lot of dodging and weaving going on in this game. There's no hide behind cover to regenerate health. It simply does not exist. If you don't dodge those projectiles, you're gonna die, son. You're gonna die. And you know what? I'm not regenerating any health. So I'm gonna have to find some health somewhere. The question is, where do I go? Well, the only place I can really go is onward and keep an eye out in these alcoves to see if there's anything here. This is a nasty exposed area. Not a fan of being where I am right now. Let's jump out of the way of him. The shooting in this game actually is probably the most satisfying of the Serious Sam games. I've played all of them, and while I do certainly like the old school aspect, I do have a number of issues with Serious Sam games, including that the shooting always just seems to be a bit anemic. This game definitely doesn't have that problem. Even this shotgun, and there is a double-barreled shotgun, which is even meatier than this, this shotgun feels like it's powerful. Even the pistol as well, which I don't know if it feels as powerful as I'd expect from Desert Eagle. It doesn't exactly have a lot of kick, as you can see right there, but it is an arcadey FPS. It's not realistic under any circumstance. So, I don't believe that's too big a deal. Well, this part of the level isn't exactly amazingly designed, I've got to say, but at least it doesn't require a map, because this game doesn't have one. which is very, very odd. Now, you might say, oh, well, that's a new school thing. No, it isn't. It's actually a very old school thing. Doom had it. Doom had a map, an overlay map that you could use, and in fact, it was almost essential for properly navigating those levels. Well, I guess meleeing was a bad idea. That's actually put me right back to the checkpoint. I haven't used any kind of quick save, so I suppose that makes me a little bit of a dumbass. Oh, well. We shall run through here and not screw it up this time, eh? Sounds like a good idea. As I was saying, there is no map, which can cause some problems. Like, for instance, in the underground museum level bit, or whatever the hell you want to call it, I was having issues with that because I didn't know which turn I'd taken and things like that. Because, like I said, there is no map. It's a really odd design decision not to have one. Like I say, a map is a very old school thing to have, and it would be extremely useful. I mean, on this level, it doesn't really matter so much, but I do find myself going down these kind of identical streets every now and again and wondering, well, have I been down this one? There's no real way to know. I don't find the bodies of my enemies, because the bodies of the enemies just evaporate very fast after you've killed them. So, it's difficult to determine, honestly. Alright, let's not screw it up this time, mate. Pistol's pretty effective regardless of whether or not you aim down sights, but sometimes it does help to aim down sights to deal with some of these guys who are a bit more of a pain in the ass. These are probably some of the easiest to deal with. Yes, suicide kamikazes are in this game. Anyone that's played Serious Sam will know exactly what I'm talking about there. I like the fact that I have to be constantly mobile in this. This is actually something that I didn't like so much about Hard Reset. You move quite slowly, and while you don't have the momentum gaining physics like you have in Painkiller, which is unfortunate. I mean, it's never been the same as Painkiller Serious Sam, but there's definitely a lot of parallels you can draw. Lots and lots of enemies, some cool soundtracks, and some big weapons, and very arcadey gameplay. In Painkiller, you could actually gain momentum by jumping repeatedly, which was kind of integral to playing the game properly. Here, that does not happen at all. Like I say, probably a deliberate decision there by the devs. I don't think that happened in any of the other Serious Sam games, but it has been a while since I've played them, so I can't really guarantee that. I'm sure some of the more Serious Sam players can tell me about that. Will you go away? Thank you. Easy enough to dodge the incoming fire from these guys. A swift kick to the chest. And that's a lot of blood. Now, I was talking about blood, so let me show you. I think Kids is the best one, if I recall correctly. Let's find some enemies, shall we? I'm sure we can find someone that's willing to demonstrate this. And excellent, we've got past the save point. You can quick save wherever you want, by the way. It's just there for convenience more so than anything else. But my god, does this level look... It's full of bits that look exactly the same. It's not exactly the most inspired level design I've ever seen. Level design does get better, although it has its moments of not being incredible. This I know from simply reading reviews and getting information from everyone else. Now, you see, I need to find something that actually bleeds, and bones don't tend to bleed, which is extremely disappointing. So, I shall deal with him. I like the fact that all the combat here is pretty much skill-based and does avoid dodging projectiles, which reminds me of old-school shooters. And as he says, as he runs into about 3 of the sodding things. I'm gonna say it's been a while since I've really played a lot of those. Oh, you cannot be serious! This game is always serious, folks. Always serious. Suicide Kamikazes, my favorite. Please go away. There we go. This is why Kid Blood is awesome. I think Hippie Blood is pretty good, too. But yeah, the fact that they just put that into the game is fantastic. God, I hate Suicide Kamikazes. Ah! Oh, balls. Now, if you'll excuse me, let's try that one again, shall we? Suicide Kamikazes can be a right pain in the ass. You know what, let's put on Hippie Blood. That's always fun. There we go. Blood is now on Hippie. I'm pretty sure donuts come out of them on one of these settings, and maybe it's kids on when you're killing a different monster. That's a possibility. Alright, now you are a colossal pain in the... Just die, will you? It's funny, we can have a look at the arcadey FPS that we've seen this year, and you can actually count them, I think, on the fingers of one hand. There's been Serious Sam. There's been Bulletstorm. That, I think, is it, actually. I think, doesn't that call... That's pretty much all of them? Yeah, I think so. I can't think of any others. Down you go. Not off the top of my head, anyway. The Sledgehammer is very powerful, by the way, as I think you've probably figured out, but my god, you don't want to use it against one of these dudes. There we go, that's hippie blood. It exploded into vegetables. Because, hey, why not? This is a very serious game, as you can tell. Get out. Oh, fun times. Fun times. Thank you. Down you go. Also, that's a minor annoyance. The smoke is bloody irritating. It's like, ooh, it looks really nice. Yeah, it kind of does. And also, you can't see what you're doing. It's especially annoying when they decide, oh, you know what would be great? Let's throw 3,000 suicide kamikazes at you. Wouldn't that be wonderful? No, it wouldn't. That's a terrible idea. There you go. Death to all those. Oh, my God, there's still more. Yeah, I definitely don't like the smoke. That, as a design decision, that was pretty dumb. Because you do need to be able to see what's coming at you. Especially when it's like 50,000 of these bastards. Because they will kill you very quickly. As you can probably figure out. And now the floor's covered in bloody pumpkins. Not ideal. Are they still... Are they repeatedly spawning? Or I should be able to kill all of these, honestly. You don't have monster boxes in this game where they just clown car enemy after enemy at you. There is a certain number of enemies. Ah. Look, seriously. Give up. I killed all your friends. Thank you. As we were saying, yeah, there isn't a case of, oh, as far as I could see anyway from the first few levels, oh, you better get out of this area or we're just going to keep throwing monsters at you. No, that doesn't happen. You kill all the monsters in the area, they don't bloody come back. And my God, will they throw a lot at you. This is only the first couple of levels, and I don't even have all that many weapons at this point, so that's certainly something to consider. Oh, wonderful. It looks like they found some more enemies for me. My God, that's a lot. Thankfully, they're terrible shots. Alright, you know what? You guys. Ah! Yes, you can do that, and yes, it is as awesome as it looks. It's extremely effective. The Sledgehammer is really brilliant, honestly. As a melee weapon, it is a good choice, certainly, and it works very, very well indeed. Nope. I shall have that, thank you very much. No. Not having any of that nonsense either. I just like the fact that even if it's not the most skillful thing in the world, the fact that I'm leaping out of the way of this guy is awesome, and you don't get to do that in modern games. Modern FPS, name one way you can do that. You couldn't even jump in Bulletstorm, which is like the only other game this year that's really come close to matching this in terms of frantic, arcadey FPS action as far as I'm concerned. Why? Why? Oh. Oh dear.
That's a lot of bull.
Yes, it is. Speaking of running out of the way of things, yeah, you couldn't even jump in that game. So, the fact that you can do this here, it's a breath of fresh air, isn't it? It's like, oh, in COD, you shouldn't do that. You know, people whine at you for jumping around corners in Call of Duty. It's not realistic. This is not how you're supposed to fight.
Alien beef.
I like the fact that this is not how you're supposed to fight. This game is off its rocker in many, many respects. Not as wacky, I think, so far as you probably expected it to be, but this is only the first couple of levels. It does ramp up, especially when you get a lot of different weapons, which currently I sadly don't have access to. They do give you weapons very slowly, as far as I can tell in this game, but if you want a more full weapon experience, then, well, multiplayer, you can do that in no problem whatsoever. I'm almost certain there's, like, something through here, but there doesn't seem to be any way to access it, so I guess it's not actually a secret. Anyway, into the castle. Actually reminds me of the Battery Park level on Deus Ex, funnily enough. Probably not intentional by them.
The LZ. It's too hot. I can't land. Clear it out. I'll come and get you.
Clear it out. Shouldn't be a problem. Ah, wonderful arena. I do like the fact that this game does tend to mix corridor shooting with actual arena-style stuff, because I think that the game needs both. If it's just nothing but arenas, then it starts to get a little bit dull. It's like, hey, it's another monster arena. Let's just kill everything in it. It's not as interesting as you might think. Corridor shooting is good in moderation, especially when they design the corridors well. The problem with that museum level is they didn't. Aside from that, though, what you've got here is refreshingly old school, I feel. I think some of you have probably seen the Zero Punctuation review. I hesitate to call them reviews, really. They're really just cartoons on this particular title. And honestly, from what I've heard of it, it did seem to be like a, well, I don't really know what I want kind of thing, because Yahtzee's criticized games for being too modern, and like he's criticized the modern shooter, and in fact praised Resistance 3 for having health packs in it again. And then when this game goes and kind of goes full old school, he just doesn't like it. I don't know why that is. But again, I haven't watched it, so I can't really give a full critique of it. That's only from what I've heard. But as somebody who's actually been yearning an old school shooter experience, this game does seem to fulfill my desires quite a bit. It's very satisfying. It really, really is, to slaughter your way through these dudes. I think we could do without the story segments, but I think they're a necessary concession to the more modern style of shooter. And yeah, there were stories in, I suppose you could call them pseudo-modern shooters, kind of era between Quake and Modern Warfare. You had some games that's like, hey, there'll be cutscenes here and things like that, and I don't feel cutscenes are actually necessary, and this game does have a few, not a huge amount, but it does have one every now and again. Certainly not the worst thing in the world, however. Have we killed you all yet? No, evidently not. I never understood how and why they throw bowlers at you. Where do they keep them, more to the point? Just quit it. This guy refuses to take a hint. Any more? I'm a fan of slaughter. I've plenty to give out. We shall not have any of that nonsense. Apparently, from what I've heard, although I haven't seen this in action, if you try to hide in cover from enemies, they'll actually just try and smash through it. And they don't like that. The game is not designed for you to stay in cover. There are a few enemies where you pretty much have to in order to dodge out the way. The big scorpions with the miniguns on their arms. Yes, there are indeed big scorpions with the miniguns on their arms. You've got to do that there. But aside from that, it's mostly a case of stay moving, stay mobile. So a lot of these guys are going to try and melee you, or they're going to shoot fairly slow-moving projectiles at you, which you can dodge. You cannot dodge, however, chain guns. Dag! Death to you. Oh, it looks like they're ramping the heat up a bit. Some people will say this is rather repetitive, and I think that some of these arena areas do drag on a little bit longer than necessary. I think that in order to keep the game rolling and keep momentum throughout the title, you've got to vary things up a little bit more than they have here. So, I mean, I've been in the arena for a few minutes now, and it's like, well, okay, when's this wave going to end? How more waves do I have to do? I don't know. It just sort of drags a little bit, I suppose. Which could, you know, that's... Oh, Christ, there's a lot of these dudes this time. Which is not particularly good. But I think I can probably forgive it for that. Although I will still make a comment on it regardless. Pacing, I don't think, has ever really been the strong point of Croteam. They're good at a lot of things, but pacing not so much. Let's have a word about the graphics. You don't really get a huge shot at this point. Sorry, my nose is itchy, which is not good when I'm trying to dodge. You don't really get to see the graphics all that much here. I mean, you've got very blue open skies and that big lens flary sun there, and texture quality is fairly good. Oh, here's a cutscene. We pretty much don't care about that. The voice acting is fairly pointless, honestly. There's not an awful lot going on there. But this will give you an opportunity at least to have a look at the graphics. You notice like the texture down there wasn't so great, but I think that was mostly due to the blurring more than anything else. Texture quality is at least as good as Crysis 2 was when it first came out, and I don't really suppose that that's much of a recommendation, is it? Because the texture quality, as I pointed out, was awful with Crysis 2. Texture quality is a funny thing because it can define how good a game looks, but not always, because the aesthetic is perhaps more important than anything else. I think, bearing in mind that this is a... That's scary. This is a self-coded engine.
Aren't you adorable?
Oh, that's a classic monster. Oh, yes. That's what I'm talking about. Now, suddenly things get more interesting. You know, I was trying to comment on the graphics, but right now I'd like to comment on the fact that this guy's trying to kill me! Big boss fights, yes! No, not big boss fights. Things die. Right, okay, let's try not to die. Of course, I've now run into the problem that I took a lot of damage during this arena, and I can't actually find any health packs anywhere. I have to wonder if there's any around the arena. Let's go and have a look, shall we, while we sprint out of the way of this dude and hope that he doesn't smash me to pieces. Anyway. Yes, graphics. The graphics quality for an indie game is pretty good, and this is effectively an indie game. It was a game that was developed in-house with an in-house engine. It doesn't use an existing engine or anything like that. And actually, the engine is quite pretty. I mean, it gives a nice, bright, and colorful world. It's a bit difficult to describe here, of course, because we're in a desert. Oh, thank God, a very small health pack found in a chair. Anything else? No, am I out of health packs? I'm going to say that I'm out of health packs. And that's that health pack gone. This is going to make this fight rather difficult. And this, we can make a comment now, I suppose, that the old school health system does have its problems when your autosave is when you have 40 HP. That said, it does save at like 10 different checkpoints along the way, so you can go back and repeat a section if you happen to be in a really untenable spot. Which you very much can be, honestly. You very much can be. You can get yourself into a serious amount of trouble. Oh yes, and I believe I can actually blow those rockets up. That's a useful thing to know. Shame I don't have an assault rifle or anything like that. I don't have a huge variety of weapons available at this stage, certainly. But yeah, this is a nice, enjoyable boss fight. And I like the fact that it's throwing out at me. It's not the first boss fight I've done either. I've fought a couple so far, and it's good that they seem to have one. I think it's one every level, as far as I can tell. Either a boss or a mini-boss. This guy's not so mini. Ow. I can't take another hit like that. Come on, die, die. Thank you very much. I have cool sunglasses, what can I say? But yeah, graphically, it's pretty impressive, honestly. It's a good-looking FPS. Might I even stir the hornet's nest and say this is probably a better-looking game than Modern Warfare? It actually, I think on a technical level is. I think the engine is much more impressive. I don't know, though. The amount of sheer talent that you've got within a company that large for a game like, say, Modern Warfare 3 means it can get some fairly epic-looking stuff, but there is a lot of trickery put in here. You don't get a lot of enemies or anything either when you've got a very, very narrow FOV. Whereas here, you've got these big, wide-open levels with a ton of enemies, and the game, for the most part, doesn't seem to slow down. In fact, now that I've mostly sorted out the problems, there were some issues with SLI, and what I did before I started this game is I actually disabled SLI. The frame rate does seem to be actually stable, as far as I can tell. I don't really see a problem with it. It seems to be running fine. And obviously, there's a ton of customization that you can have there. Now, I suppose the last question to really ask on the single-player side of things is, well, is this what we needed? Is this the Messiah, I suppose? Is this what we've been asking for all this time? Do we really want this old-school style of shooter back? And I think after playing this game, I can safely say, yeah, we damn well do. And anyone that tells you otherwise, well, I don't want to meet that guy because I'd get a little bit mad. The modern shooter, and some people make some comments that, oh, you know, this kind of game... I think it was IGN that made this comment, and I slapped them for saying anything of the sort, because it does make them a bit of a derp. It's like, oh, well, you know, there used to be games like this, and then we went into the era of thinking man shooters. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. You don't have to think in modern shooters. Are you serious? What modern shooters have you been playing lately? There's no thought involved. You're dragged along. You don't even have to search for things. It's all put in front of you. You don't find stuff like this. It's like, this isn't even all that well hidden, but you don't even get stuff like this in a modern shooter. Secrets. Places to find. Exploration that goes on. I'm not so keen on this aim down sight thing, by the way. But it doesn't really matter, I guess. I don't have to use it. The game certainly doesn't require you to. It's quite possible to not use aim down sight. In fact, that seems to be preferable in many scenarios, especially in multiplayer. The era of the thinking man shooter is a myth. There are thinking man shooters. They exist. Stalker is an example. Deus Ex is an example. Armor is an example. But they're few and far between. They're actually a fairly rare beast. There was never an era of big thinking man shooters. That simply did not happen as far as I am concerned. Is there a secret there? No, it doesn't look like it. Nope. Looks like we're not going up there. There never was an era of that. What you got is a more scripted shooter that became less and less complex. It went into the era of regenerating health. It went into the era of scripted events. It went into the era of holding your hand and forcing you into walking scenes and cut scenes and nonsense like that. And thankfully, this game does not do anything of the sort. That doesn't look pleasant. Keep an eye out to make sure that I don't get horribly slaughtered by that thing. Turns out, I don't think I can break that. I would love to take it. That would be nice. Oh, okay, never mind. It's friendly. Well, that's not so much of a problem then, is it? Can I have it? I want... Oh, that was silly. Let's turn it back on. Yes, a little bit of assistance would be required. Thank you, Mr. Minigun. Thank you.
Hamburger. My favorite.
That's what I'm talking about. I would love to grab a hold of that minigun. You can get a minigun later in the game, but I don't think I can have that one. Why? Why wouldn't it let me have it? But no, we need games like this. We have been sorely lacking them. Hard Reset was almost there, but it did lack in a number of areas. I think Serious Sam fulfills the desire for gung-ho violence way better than Hard Reset does. Hard Reset was a good game. This is bordering on being a great game for what I've seen from the single player thus far. This is the kind of thing I just love to play. The absolute slaughter is brilliant. The gunplay is fun. It's arcadey. The game does make me smile from time to time. It's a good-looking game. It's a good-sounding game. It's got some great music. And, of course, there's plenty of nostalgia involved in that. And I suppose some people will say, well, the reason you like this game is because nostalgia. No. Honestly, it's not even nostalgia to say that a game like Duke Nukem 3D is better than Modern Warfare 2's campaign. It isn't even nostalgia. Why would it be? It's not nostalgia because Modern Warfare's campaign, well, Modern Warfare 2 at any rate, the original Modern Warfare had a pretty reasonable campaign, was so incredibly scripted and incredibly short that, yeah, it's a game like Duke Nukem with its level complexity, and it had a lot of it, and its variety of gunplay, and its actual tactical decision-making that you had to make in there in terms of the weapons you used and looking around for secrets to find, and its uncompromising difficulty a lot of the time. That was a better game, and we don't get games like that anymore, as I've said in previous descriptions. Apparently that minigun's not my friend anymore. And previous comments on a wide variety of different FPS videos. I said a lot on my Hard Reset video. I said it a lot on my Duke Nukem Forever video. We need these kind of games. We do. And thank God that Croteam's actually providing it. Alright. So, I've had a look at this, and I think, you know, you've kind of seen what the campaign involves. Bear in mind that the campaign can be played in co-op, and that is really where the meat of the game lies. That's where the most fun you will have with this game is. You throw 15 other people into this, and it becomes absolutely crazy. So I would highly recommend having a look at that. Alright, aside from that, let's go and have a look at the multiplayer, shall we? A perfect time to stop. Alright, so multiplayer. There is split screen, as you can see right there, which is a crazy option to have, and then network play. Network play cooperative and versus. I'll do a little bit of versus. Let's have a look at the server list. Now, the problem is there's not a huge number of people playing this, as I think you can tell, and that's kind of disappointing because if we were to, say, start a server, you can see that there are a lot of different modes available. Deathmatch, Capture the Flag, an Instagib mode, Team Deathmatch. That's quite cool. That's just kind of hold onto the objects, kind of a moving King of the Hill. A Beast Hunt, a Team Beast Hunt, and then Last Man Standing, which is kind of a Counter-Strike mode as well. Unfortunately, people just seem to run Deathmatch all the time, which not so ideal. Let's Capture the Flag server here, but no one's actually playing on it. There's a depressing lack of people playing this. But let's go on the French server, shall we? Let's play a little bit of Deathmatch. Should give you an impression of what the Deathmatch actually involves. Hopefully this works. A lot of these guys are actually hosting it themselves, so sometimes you do get lag problems in this. I'm hoping that is not the case this time around. The last time I played this, it was... oh, bollocks. It was quite enjoyable. But let's give that another try, shall we? Join game. Nope, server list is what we need to be clicking here. Server list. Well, let's try this Germany versus one then. See if that one works. Because if we literally have no one playing the deathmatch, I'm going to be very disappointed, because that means I can't demonstrate that, and we'll have to have a look at it a little bit later. But I suppose while we're doing this, we can talk about the price point. This is a full-price game. At least it... Christ. At least it is on the UK side of things. It's 30 quid, so you are paying quite a bit, but I feel that the package does give you quite a lot, with the co-op mode particularly. The thing is that it was 50% off during the Steam sale, and it's really hard to then turn around and say, this is worth your money, when only a few days ago it was 50% off. That's the problem with Steam sales, I suppose, isn't it? It's really hard to say that. I mean, would I have regretted it if I paid full price for this game? I don't think so, honestly, but I think that's mostly due to bias. I think it just comes down to the fact that I've been looking forward to very much a old school style of shooter for so long, and I've been so desperate in order to actually get one that I would have paid full price for an old school shooter right off the bat. but I don't think it's my bias when I say that this style of shooter is still relevant, it's still important, and because of the lack of it that we've had on PC, and the funny thing is there's actually been quite a bit of it on console, less so like Serious Sam 3 nonsense, but more kind of semi-arcadey, like, say, Resistance 3 and Killzone 3 to an extent. We've only been getting the really linear shooters on the PC, which has been very, very disappointing. Why do I have such an itchy nose? Alright, well, you know what? Let's try and host one, then. I guess we'll see if maybe you can find one with the matchmaking service. I don't believe there's no one playing. It's ridiculous. Very disappointing. If not, I'm going to try and host one. Oh, looks like they've got a host. Let's see if this actually works. Hopefully it does. Gimme, gimme, gimme. I think for all its problems, it still... and this is one of the problems, apparently. It's still a really important game. And it's important because of the complete lack of games like this. I hope this spurs on a bit of a revival of the old-schoolish kind of genre. I really, really do. I think that that genre is definitely relevant. I'm going to try one last time, and if it doesn't work, I'm going to have to do a multiplayer video at some other time, because... Oh, no, did it get it? Did it get it? Right, let's see if it gets in. I say, this will be the final attempt, and if it doesn't, then I suppose we'll have to conclude. Which would be disappointing. I want to blow some stuff up. Come on. Do me a favor. Oh, well, I guess we're not checking that out. I'll have to do that as a separate video. Anyway, conclusion, like I said, it's flawed. It's got some issues, certainly. The levels are, in places, not as well designed as I would like. Certainly that museum level was not great. I feel that the level that we just went through was certainly a bit repetitive in places. I think that maybe they used the monster arena a little bit too much, and that's something that Serious Sam's always been guilty of, honestly. It's like, here's an arena, let's just throw wave after wave at you. But I think they've actually taken, sort of tied that back a little bit and reeled it in so that it doesn't happen as often as some of the previous Serious Sam games. I do enjoy this game an awful lot, as you could probably figure out. It would be really nice to show you something a lot later on in the game. I probably will in the background of a mailbox or whatever. But if I were to say, do I recommend it? If you were a fan of old school games like Duke Nukem 3D, even, of course, things like Quake, then yeah, I think you're going to enjoy this an awful lot, because I've certainly enjoyed what I've played of it up until this point. I think the Croteam's done a good job here. They've created a nice engine. They've put together a nice, solid, if a little bit simple, FPS that is based on individual skill and is refreshingly old school. I don't think it's stuffy. I don't think that it brings back a lot of bad mechanics. In fact, I think that things like the old way of doing armor and health is still relevant and can still work very, very well. Admittedly, it can be extremely punishing for you, and it can force you to backtrack. But you know what? I'll take that over regenerating health any day of the week. I'll take being able to dodge projectiles over taking fire and having to hide in cover doing nothing any day of the week. Serious Sam 3 is a game where you're always doing something. And you know what? That's really vital for my enjoyment. It is. Because if I feel like I'm not doing something, if I feel like, oh, the game's playing itself, then why the hell am I even here? You know, I'm a gamer. This is not a movie. I shouldn't be treating it like a movie. I shouldn't have to treat it like a movie when it's like, here's another cutscene, or walk along with your gun down while this boring guy talks. You know what? I like to talk with my weapons, and this game allows me to do just that. And as far as I can tell, in that respect, this game has an awful lot to say. My name's been TotalBiscuit, taking a first impressions look, and actually now a third impressions look, at Serious Sam 3. I will bring you a multiplayer video at some point when there are servers up in order to do so. I'll see you next time.